I think that future generations are going to look back in revulsion at the ways in which we treated animals in our era, and they're going to wonder, how could anyone have ever thought that that was acceptable?
Every year, we slaughter more than 50 billion animals just for their meat.
You don't need the animal. You need the meat, but you don't need the animal. You don't need the consciousness. You don't need the pain. You don't need the land. You just need a cell.
Growing meat from single cells can save both animals and the environment.
The current situation of factory farming animals just cannot remain. It's too resource intensive, it's too contributing to climate change, it's too cruel to the animals, it presents too many food safety and public health problems. The current system is not a viable model.
Cultured meat is on its way.
So we got some ground meat here.
Duck chorizo.
This is the first ever meat without needing animal to ever be sold in the history of our awesome little planet.
Yeah. This is the sausage.
This is Backlight. Welcome to the world of meat without killing.
What is in the pan?
Duck chorizo, made with our cultured cells.
So this is made from cells of a duck.
Yep. Well, the ones that we've grown here in our lab.
And do you sometimes notice that people are uneasy that it's made in a lab?
Absolutely. It's still kind of an undiscovered territory, unexplored. Once you understand what it is and the impact that it has, and just how big and kind of revolutionary it can be, it gets a lot more delicious when you taste it that way.
It may seem futuristic, but one company wants to enter the market with cultured meat this year. It's called Just.
You look like you needed some tacos.
I always need tacos.
Me too. All right, give it a shot.
Yes, ma'am.
A food company managed by a vegan who eats meat.
It tastes exactly how I want it to, which is like meat. Not better, not worse, just like meat. I'm vegan.
You're vegan, okay.
Well, I don't know if I call myself vegan. I actually, for the purpose of testing the meat, I've begun to eat a little bit more meat so I can hold my chefs accountable. And I also eat our meat. So I don't know what you call that.
Cultured meat, or clean meat as it's called in the United States, is the new rage for all kinds of startups in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Companies set up by idealists who are deeply concerned about animal suffering. They all want to make meat without animals having to be killed for it. Memphis Meats presented the first cultured meatball a year ago, and recently cultured chicken nuggets. Another startup is Finless Foods. They want to start selling fish burgers from cultured fish cells in 2019. The Just company has been around a bit longer and has been making purely plant-based food products since 2011. It uses robots and artificial intelligence to examine plants and seeds for their food properties. The company produces, amongst other things, vegan mayonnaise and scrambled eggs without eggs.
Here, crackles a little bit. Okay.
They started breeding animal cells a year ago now.
We've created, I think, a false concept. And the concept is meat and animal are the same thing. And it's understandable why we've created that. In the past, cross-country transportation used to be synonymous with a horse and buggy. So you can't get it out of your head, that's how I travel. In the past, lighting one's home was synonymous with killing a whale. And in our world today, we conflate eating animals and eating meat, when in fact you can actually separate them. You can eat meat, but not harm the animal.
Meat from a live chicken. Just explains in a promo film about a chicken called Ian.
The whole idea is that that chicken in itself has an unlimited source of itself, and there is a way where you can take just a handful of cells and keep growing them essentially infinitely. For those very first cells, it was important to us how we got the cells, not just that we got the cells. We came up with the idea to use one feather from the single best chicken that we could find.
So-called stem cells are used, meat cells that can be isolated and allowed to grow almost indefinitely outside the animal. In principle, by feeding sugars, salt and vegetable proteins to a very small number of cells, you can deliver thousands of kilos of meat. After all, most of the animals we eat are vegetarians anyway.
Wake up, I wanna lift you up, I wanna dress you up, let's be friends.
It was an out-of-body experience to sit there and eat a chicken, but have the chicken that you're eating running around in front of you. You don't imagine doing something like that. But then you have this realization that we've figured out how life really works, and now we don't need to cause death in order to create food. And we're gonna have to do it if we want to continue living on this planet.
Today, tens of billions of animals live behind the walls of factory farms. So I think the question is, how do we figure out a way to give people the animal protein they desire without all of the negative consequences? And that's where cultured meat comes in. That's where this idea of making meat in a different way. Not making plant-based meat, but actually making meat in a different way comes up. I mean, the way that we eat chicken today isn't the way we ate chicken 100 years ago. The way that we eat bacon today isn't the way we ate bacon 200 years ago. There's a different process. It's more efficient today than it was decades ago. And we think it should be more efficient 10 years from now than it is today.
The idea for growing meat from animal cells arose during the Second World War in a Japanese camp in Indonesia. Dutchman Willem van Eelen was locked up in one as a young man. He spoke about it in a documentary in 2013.
Je kunt niet eens zeggen dat je verrekte van de honger, want dat kon je niet meer. Je kwijnt weg. Je energie is weg.
Van Eelen was 22 when he returned to the Netherlands and started studying medicine.
Ik ging studeren en toen werden we op een gegeven moment met de witte jassen gingen we naar een bepaald professor in de celafdeling. En die liet ons een stuk vlees zien. Dat was helemaal in glas verpakt. Dat was zo'n stuk vlees. Dat was dus in vivo, dat had hij uit een dier gehaald. En dat hield hij in leven, al een paar weken, een paar maanden zelfs. Met de goede grondstoffen die hij dat vlees... Het groeide zelfs een beetje. Daar hadden we college over. Maar ik was een wat oudere student. En ik had natuurlijk een eetcomplex uit het Jappenkamp. Ik denk dat is eten. Stel je voor dat je dat kunt kweken.
In 1997, Van Eelen acquired the patent on his idea of how to make cultured meat.
Hier, daar heb je hem. Dat zijn prachtige documenten. Daar heb je 5 jaar voor krom gelegen. Als je weet wat ik allemaal gedaan heb om het geld bij elkaar te peuteren. Mijn vrouw schilderijen gemaakt. Ik heb poppenhuizen gemaakt. Ik heb huis aan huis tijdschriften verkocht. Ik heb lezingen gehouden. Ik heb het net niet bij elkaar gejat, maar soms was je daar wel toe in staat. Die octrooien, die krijg je dan een heleboel jaren. Maar een octrooi, vergis je niet, een octrooi heeft een bepaalde looptijd. Een octrooi is 15, soms 17, soms 20 jaar lang. Als je dus je product in die tijd niet op tafel weet te krijgen, dan is het octrooi waardeloos. Kun je het op de wc hangen, om het netjes te zeggen.
5,5 ton.
5,5 ton weg. En een heel leven daaraan gedrukt en gewerkt. Ja.
Willem van Eelen managed to get €2 million from the Dutch government for research into cultured meat. But things were developing too slowly for him. It had become almost an obsession. He passed his patent to an American lawyer. In the meantime, his battle to make cultured meat a reality was driving his daughter Ira crazy. Willem van Eelen died in 2015 and his cultured meat was still not in production. But last September, Ira van Eelen received a mail from Jos Tetrick, CEO at Just. Just had bought her father's patent.
And that was the film of a chicken walking around while everybody was eating chicken nuggets. And the only reply I could give at that moment was, you can call me anytime. So he did. And I teared up, totally. But I was over the moon.
Jos Tetrick invited Ira to come to San Francisco, where for the first time she tasted the cultured meat that her father had fought for.
Everybody asked me, what was it like? And to be honest, it was just like any other good thing I ever ate. It was like meat, and that was the point. It wasn't supposed to be like meat, it was meat, so that's what I was eating. And yeah, and of course, it's sad that he wasn't there. After a few days being in San Francisco, I even wrote my father a letter. 5 november 2017. Dag paps. Daar ben ik weer eens om tegen je aan te praten, om je iets te vertellen. Ik zit nu bij Greens te wachten op Jos Tetrick. En ach paps, wat had je dat een leuke vent gevonden. Ik ben de afgelopen weken, maar vooral hier deze dagen doorgezaagd over jou. Over je idee, over hoe je het gedaan hebt, over wat je dacht.
Every once and again, I think there's an idea that's so powerful that meets a society that really needs it, that meets a set of technologies that are right for it, that maybe meets a group of people who can say fuck it. Let's make it safe. Let's make it taste great. Let's make it align with people's identity. But we don't have a lot of time to pontificate anymore on this. We got to get going.
But in the preceding years, research had also continued in the Netherlands. Between 2010 and 2013, Professor Mark Post in Maastricht was busy working on Willem van Eelen's ideas for growing cultured meat from a few muscle cells from a cow.
We take a few cells from a cow, muscle-specific stem cells that can only become muscle. There's very little that we have to do to make these cells do the right thing. They divide by themselves, and if we provide those anchor points, the future tendons, they will self-organize into muscle. So a few cells that we take from this cow can turn into 10 tons of meat.
In 2013, in London, with money from Google founder Sergey Brin, he managed to present the world's first cultured meat hamburger.
Everyone sitting here with bated breath is dying to see what's underneath the cloche, so can you do the honours and lift the lid on your creation?
Okay. Yep.
This launching of the first cultured hamburger was the proof that Van Eelen's idea worked, and it is why the Netherlands is viewed worldwide as the home country of cultured meat.
What did it taste like?
There's quite some intense taste. It's close to meat. It's not that juicy, but the consistency is perfect.
To grow cultured meat, you need a special culture vessel called in lab terms a bioreactor.
Nou, deze systemen zijn op industriële schaal nu verkrijgbaar in 25.000 liter. Dus dat is zeg maar ongeveer zo groot als deze kamer. Ze zijn zelfs nog wel groter, maar 25.000 liter is ongeveer de standaard. En onze berekeningen laten zien dat je zo'n reactor kunt gebruiken om in Europa 10.000 mensen gedurende een jaar van vlees te voorzien. In Amerika is dat 5000 mensen.
The idea of cultured meat gives many people an odd feeling. What would Post call the stuff?
Ik zou het gewoon vlees noemen, eerlijk gezegd.
Behalve dat er geen dieren voor dood gegaan zijn.
Behalve dat er geen dieren voor dood zijn. Dus dan noem je het diervriendelijk vlees of wat dan ook. Maar het is nog steeds vlees en dus niet veganistisch of zelfs maar vegetarisch. En ik heb daar ook wel discussies over met veganisten. Ja, je moet nog steeds een koe in de bil prikken. En dat willen ze liever niet. Ja.
American Paul Shapiro has been following the developments in cultured meat since 2002.
But it wasn't until the burger tasting that Mark Post demonstrated in 2013 when it became a whole lot more real for me, when I realized that this actually is a technology that has the power to address many of the most pressing problems that humanity faces.
Recently, his book Clean Meat was published, in which he describes in detail why there is a need to speed up the development of cultured meat.
The current situation of factory farming animals just cannot remain. It's too resource intensive, it's too contributing to climate change, it's too cruel to the animals, it presents too many food safety and public health problems. The current system is not a viable model.
Meat eating is in our genes. Most people like it and enjoy it as a small luxury. Meat production has increased 5-fold in the past 50 years and is predicted to double again in the next 30 years. It is a proven fact that in all countries with a growing economy, the consumption of meat grows too, and with it, CO2 emissions and the suffering of animals.
The planet isn't getting any bigger, but humanity's footprint on the planet is getting bigger. And the animal agriculture system contributes more greenhouse gas emissions than all of the transportation sector combined. So according to the United Nations, animal agriculture causes greater numbers of greenhouse gas emissions than all cars, trains, planes, boats, trucks, all combined. And so if we're serious about wanting to fight climate change, if we're serious about trying to keep temperatures from rising more than 2 degrees, as we really have to be serious about, taking care of this problem, that we're raising too many animals for food, has got to be at the top of the list of our priorities. And so that's, I think, among the most compelling reasons why anyone would want to switch to clean meat.
It is estimated that the production of cultured meat will be between 50 and 90% less harmful to the environment than the traditional way of producing meat.
I have now consumed clean beef, duck, fish, liver, foie gras, chorizo. Now, all of this is made from animal cells.
How did it taste?
I enjoyed it. Now, I fully admit that as somebody who hadn't eaten meat in a very long time, I may not be the best judge. So what I can say is that it tasted very good and it tasted like meat to me. And it's not that surprising that it would taste like meat because that's what it is. It is meat. It's not an alternative.
But at the moment, Ira van Eelen still has to make do with traditional minced meat. What joy would it give her to see her father's dream, cultured meat as the norm, become a reality? Most people thought it would take years before cultured meat was ready for the market, but Just says it's ready to go to market on a small scale now. Tetrick has brought some of the Just meat to the Netherlands as a tribute to Willem van Eelen, Ira's father.
Oh, I was not going to cry, and I'm not going to cry, but I'm very happy.
This is sausage. It's chorizo flavored. We thought that'd be a nice touch.
Ira and Tetrick donate a sausage to the Science Museum Nemo because in 2010 the museum, together with Willem van Eelen, organised the first public conference on cultured meat. And this is a very special object. A cultured meat sausage, fresh from the lab and ready for market.
I know for me, it means a lot. It might even mean more for you, Ira.
It does.
What do you think your dad would think about this?
On this place in Amsterdam where he worked so hard.
So we got some ground meat here.
Duck chorizo.
And then we got a sausage here. This is the first ever meat without needing animal to ever be sold in the history of our awesome little planet.
Yeah.
This is the sausage. So realize that this is going to be part of our collection. We're not going to eat this one.
No, understood.
We're going to preserve it in some way. I don't know how yet.
We want to make it. We want to sell it. We want to learn about consumer reaction to it. I'm sure we'll learn a lot. This is the year of scaling and selling.
I think there are probably 3 key hurdles that the industry needs to overcome in order to make it successfully to market. The first is just the technological hurdles of bringing the cost down and then scaling up. And that means finding cheaper ways to feed the cells. Right now, the feed that the cells eat is very expensive. We need to get cheaper feed. So in addition to that, there of course is potential government regulation. And we have to consider, will the government allow these products to be sold? And presumably the answer will vary by country. It may be the case that in some parts of the world, like China or Brazil or India, that they may be more open-minded to this than in Europe. We don't really know, but that's possible. And then the third, of course, is going to be consumer acceptance. Now, I think that is probably the easiest to overcome because right now the way that meat is made is so problematic that most people don't want to even know about it. Most people don't want to visit a slaughterhouse. They don't want to see animals having their throats cut. They don't want to visit a farm and see the pigs having their testicles cut out without any pain relief. They don't want to see chickens crammed inside of cages. And so once people recognize just how unnatural and inhumane the current methods of meat production are, there's been a pretty serious eagerness to have a viable alternative like clean meat.
Young, exciting technology companies. I'd like to welcome...
Cultured meat was also a hot topic at the recently held Future Food Tech Conference in San Francisco. And it's not only cultured meat that's on tomorrow's menu. Fish bred from cells is on the horizon too, according to Michael Selden of Finless Foods.
So fish is one of the healthiest sources of animal protein that we have. You would eat clean fish if you are concerned about the mercury and the plastic in your food, if you're concerned about the antibiotics and added growth hormones that go on in many aquaculture facilities, if you're concerned with dragnet fishing and industrial fishing destroying ocean ecosystems, if you are concerned with, in aquaculture, the insecticides, the fungicides, the herbicides, the pesticides, these things leaching out into the environment and causing ocean dead zones, if you're concerned with animal cruelty, if any of these things are of any concern to you, I think that clean fish should be a pretty appealing alternative because you still get to eat the thing that you love, but without the environmental problems, without the animal welfare issues, and without any of the health concerns. So you can still get exactly what you want, all the good stuff, none of the bad stuff.
The company wants to start selling the fish in 2019. But what to call it? These are fish bred on a fish farm. And then there's fish from fish cells. Shall we call them fake fish or just fish meat?
We are just producing, at least for now, fish meat. So we're leaving out the bones, we're leaving off the skin. But all the cells that make up fish meat, we are currently working on producing. So how difficult is it to grow fish meat? Well, we're really working with natural systems here. So the cells that we're working with already want to do what we're doing with them. And what I mean by that is what we're doing is replicating the exact biochemical environment from inside of a fish, outside of a fish. These cells that we're working with naturally want to divide out and to grow and to turn into muscle. We're just giving them the nutrients to do that in an environment outside of the fish's body.
Bluefin tuna is a delicacy, but also an endangered species. According to Finless, by feeding sugars, salts and proteins to a few tuna stem cells in culture vessels, from 2019, people will be able to eat tuna without shame. The process looks a bit like brewing beer, but then with fish or meat cells. It should come as no surprise then that Heineken Brewery is investing in a company like Just. In any case, there is huge interest in cultured meat.
We've had no shortage of finance so far, and we don't see that letting up anytime soon. As long as this technology still looks promising, which I really believe that it will, I think that people are very interested in the idea to tie profits with doing good.
Yeah, we eventually want to get into bluefin tuna, chicken breast, pork chops, bacon, almost all the meat you can imagine. We eventually want to make it, and we will hopefully want to work with some of the biggest meat companies so they can do it too.
Finless Foods, Just, Memphis Meats, they're all up and running and they're in the right location. Memphis Meats made their first cultured meatball at Indie Bio in San Francisco, and Finless Foods cultured their first fish cells there. The company is at the centre of all kinds of bio startups. In exchange for shares, it provides facilities, contacts, knowledge and financing.
And so we have space in here for 15 companies at a time. We fund 15 companies every 6 months. So 30 companies a year come out of Indie Bio. Here you see the Indie Bio lab. That's a full biosafety level 1 and 2 lab here in the heart of downtown San Francisco. In this lab, you can do world-class science, repeatable science, and it's got very specialized equipment for the discovery of drugs to treat diseases like cancer, Zika virus, and things like that, all the way to being able to purify and make proteins and then turn that into the future of the food. We provide capital, we provide help, we provide lab space, we provide network, we provide all of these things to help them not make the same mistakes, be capital efficient, and get to a place where they can raise lots of money at a very high valuation, attract other talent around them, and really launch a company that's transformational.
There is no longer any question about it for the bio startups in San Francisco. Cultured meat and fish are inevitable developments. But there are still very many questions from farmers in the US. American cattle farmers recently asked their government to ban the use of the word clean meat. According to them, the word meat can only be used for slaughtered animals. Meat is a complicated product. Diseases are spread easily, so there is an abundant use of antibiotics. Cultured meat doesn't have this disadvantage. The production environment is sterile. Any viruses or bacteria will stop the brewing process. According to Mark Post, it is intrinsically safe.
Er is geen enkele reden om te veronderstellen dat dit niet veilig is. Ik kan die reden niet verzinnen. Dus eigenlijk is het doen van veiligheidstesten een soort van rituele dans. Je zegt van ja, we moeten dit doen, we moeten hier doorheen. Terwijl ik eigenlijk al van tevoren weet, daar gaat niks uitkomen. Toch vind ik het belangrijk om ze te doen, omdat je nooit helemaal zeker bent. En ook als signaal naar consumenten toe van we hebben er alles aan gedaan om aan te tonen dat dit veilig is. En nu gaan we de markt op.
This thing works and it's delicious.
Just has said they will put cultured meat on the market this year. Where will they introduce it first?
Our options include the US, Singapore, China, Brazil, and a handful of other locations around the world, New Zealand, Australia. So these are all different locations that we're currently in talks with about launching it before the end of the year.
I think that future generations are going to look back in revulsion at the ways in which we treated animals in our era. And they're going to wonder, how could anyone have ever thought that that was acceptable? I don't think that the judgment of future generations is going to be kind to us when they learn about our factory farms, when they learn about our industrial slaughter plants, when they learn about the conditions that animals were subjected to during transportation, the mutilations that they endured without painkillers, the fact that this industry was such a contributor to climate change, and all for what? Once we have an alternative that works just as well, and that doesn't have so many downsides, it will be much easier for our descendants to have a clearer vision of what exactly it is that we're doing today to animals and to the planet.
Thank you for watching. For more on this subject, take a look at the playlist. You can also watch this recommended video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and we'll keep you updated on our documentaries.